On July 1st, 2025, a wave of concern swept through social media platforms as thousands of fans began sharing what appeared to be deeply troubling news. Country music legend Willie Nelson, now 92 years old, had reportedly collapsed and been rushed to the hospital. Images soon followed. Pictures of an elderly man in a hospital bed, hooked up to a ventilator. The posts were shared by several large accounts and even included a quote allegedly from his son, musician Lucas Nelson, stating that his father was in serious but stable condition and that the coming hours will be critical. For longtime fans, the story was heartbreaking and believable. Willie Nelson has a well-documented history of health problems, particularly with his lungs. But as quickly as the rumors spread, they were shot down. The images were proven to be AI-generated. The quote from Lucas was entirely fabricated, and perhaps most reassuringly, Willie himself responded directly. "Lol, what a joke," he commented online. Then he added, "See y'all at the 4th of July picnic tomorrow." And just like that, the legend was not only alive and well, but preparing to perform at his annual Willie Nelson's 4th of July picnic in Austin, Texas, a tradition that began in 1973 and has since become a hallmark of American music culture. But this incident is more than just another example of a celebrity death hoax. It's a case study in how technology, human psychology, and media literacy intersect in dangerous ways in 2025. What began as a seemingly credible scare revealed broader truths about trust, authenticity, and the increasing need for digital skepticism. A legend with a fragile history. To understand why the false rumors were so persuasive, it's important to revisit Willie Nelson's real health history. Born in 1933, Nelson has lived through, and sung through, almost a century of American history. His career has spanned outlaw country, jazz, gospel, pop, and blues. But while his musical adaptability has kept him relevant, his health has always been a shadow following him. Nelson has been candid about his long struggle with respiratory issues, particularly due to a history of smoking. Not just tobacco, but marijuana and even cedar bark, which he once admitted nearly killed him. "I've abused my lungs quite a bit in the past," he said in an interview. "So breathing is a little more difficult these days, and I have to be careful." He's had several public health scares over the past decade. In early 2018, he left the stage mid-performance in San Diego, visibly struggling to breathe. Just over a year later, in August 2019, he canceled a 30-date tour, citing a recurring breathing problem. Then in May 2022, COVID-19 nearly took his life while he was on tour. His wife, Annie, described it as a terrifying ordeal. "They turned the house into a hospital, and there were a couple of times when I wasn't sure he was going to make it." Given this history, it's no wonder that fans were quick to assume the worst when the fake posts surfaced. The narrative was plausible. The images were convincing. The quote sounded legitimate. The truth, it turns out, had little chance of beating the lie. At least, not at first. The anatomy of a viral lie. The rumor began to spread after Nelson canceled a scheduled performance at the Outlaw Music Festival in Oklahoma. That's all it took. Without waiting for an official explanation, opportunistic creators, perhaps trolls, perhaps bots, began distributing the fabricated story. It wasn't just text. There were images, and those images were powerful. The photos showed what appeared to be Willie Nelson, aged and vulnerable, lying in a hospital bed connected to tubes and machinery. These were not blurry or poorly doctored. They had the polished, eerie believability of images created using generative AI tools, the kind now easily accessible to the public. Next came the quote, allegedly from Lucas Nelson, expressing concern about his father's condition and the critical hours ahead. Despite being entirely false, it felt emotionally real. For fans still haunted by past health scares, the story had all the marks of credibility. Compounding the issue was the sheer speed of the internet. Within hours, the post had been shared tens of thousands of times. Fans, celebrities, and even a few media personalities expressed sorrow and support. Speculation exploded. This is where things could have spiraled into full-blown chaos. But then, almost immediately, reality pushed back. The truth emerges. The first counter-message came from the organizers of the Outlaw Music Festival. In a public statement, they explained that the July 1st performance was canceled not due to any medical emergency, but because of extreme weather during the previous stop in Missouri. Heavy rain and high winds had damaged instruments, stage gear, and sound equipment. It wasn't safe to continue to the next venue until repairs and replacements were made. Then came the definitive rebuttal, a personal message from Willie Nelson himself. With typical Texan dry wit, he wrote, "Lol, what a joke," followed by the reassuring update that he'd see everyone at the picnic on July 4th. That was the end of the rumor, but not the end of the story. Technology, trust, and the fight for reality. We've seen celebrity death hoaxes before, but this one was different. It didn't rely on a random tweet or a faked article. It was built on AI-generated images, a fabricated quote, and a compelling narrative rooted in real-world plausibility. What makes this so disturbing is how fragile truth now feels. A single, false post, dressed in the trappings of authenticity, can go viral in minutes. And in cases like this, where fans already fear the worst, falsehoods don't just spread, they thrive. We're entering an era where seeing is no longer believing. AI tools like DALLE, Midjourney, and others can create photorealistic images in seconds. Deepfake videos are improving, and voice cloning is increasingly realistic. It's no longer about whether these technologies can be abused, it's about how prepared we are as a society to respond when they are. This event raises urgent questions. Should social media platforms flag AI-generated images of public figures, especially in medical or death-related contexts? What ethical responsibility do creators of generative AI tools have in preventing misuse? And most importantly, are we, the public, equipped with enough digital literacy to recognize when we're being manipulated? The human cost of digital misinformation. Beyond the philosophical questions lies a simple, human truth. This hurt people. Thousands of Willie Nelson fans genuinely believed they might be losing a music icon. Many were brought to tears. Some shared memories, posted tributes, and began mourning a man who was very much alive. The emotional toll is real, even when the information is fake. And what about Willie himself? At 92, he's still performing, still creating, still enjoying life. Imagine logging onto the internet and seeing your own ventilated face trending under RIP. Even with a sense of humor, that kind of experience leaves a mark. The psychological stress that misinformation imposes on public figures, their families, and their fans is a growing concern, one that hasn't yet caught up with the pace of technological change. A celebration, not a farewell. As the dust settled, all eyes turned toward Austin, Texas, where Willie Nelson's 4th of July picnic was set to take place. First held in 1973, the picnic has become more than a concert. It's a cultural touchstone. Over the decades, the lineup has included everyone from Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson to the Grateful Dead and Waylon Jennings. It's a stage for legends, newcomers, and American roots music in its purest form. And on July 4th, 2025, Willie Nelson walked onto that stage, guitar in hand, braids in place, ready to play. The fans cheered, some with tears of relief. The show went on. The music played. Reality, for once, reclaimed its rightful place. Where do we go from here? If this incident teaches us anything, it's that vigilance is no longer optional. Whether you're a fan, a journalist, or just a casual social media user, you have to approach everything with a critical eye. We also need better tools, both technological and educational, to help us navigate a world where fakes can look more real than reality. Social media companies will need to evolve. Generative AI platforms will need to adopt watermarking or identification protocols. And perhaps most critically, we'll need to teach ourselves and future generations how to ask better questions before hitting share. Because next time, it might not be a false rumor about a 92-year-old music legend. It might be something far more consequential, about an election, a war, or a public emergency. Conclusion: long live Willie. In the end, this wasn't a story about a death.